Bart Simpson slouched in the principal's office, his sneakers scuffing the worn linoleum floor. The air smelled of stale coffee and old paper. Principal Skinner's voice droned on about responsibility, but Bart barely listened. His latest prank, a jar of worms labeled free snacks left in the teacher's lounge, had sent Mrs. Krabappel into a shrieking fit, earning him a week's suspension. Bart smirked, but inside, he felt a familiar, restless itch. Springfield. Elementary was dull, and now he'd have to find something to fill the empty days. By noon, Bart wandered the school's library, a place he rarely visited voluntarily. The librarian, Mrs. Phelps, was asleep at her desk, her glasses slipping down her nose. Dust motes floated in the dim light, filtering through cracked blinds. Bart's fingers trailed along the shelves, knocking over a stray pencil. Then, in a forgotten corner, he spotted it, a tattered notebook wedged between two moldy encyclopedias. Its cover was black, frayed, and oddly warm to the touch, as if it had been left in the sun too long. No title, no name, just faint scratches that might have once been letters. Curiosity tugged at him. Bart pried it free, coughing as a cloud of dust erupted. He flipped it open. The pages were yellowed, curling at the edges, and filled with ink. Drawings so intricate they seemed to pulse under his gaze. The first sketch stopped his breath. It was him, or something like him. Bart's spiky hair, his toothy grin, but wrong, horribly wrong. The figure's arms stretched endlessly, coiling, like snakes beyond the page's borders. Eyes, dozens of them, sprouted across its body, some bulging, others sunken, all staring in different directions. Bart's stomach churned, but he couldn't look away. Page after page, the drawings grew worse, limbs twisting into impossible. Knots, eyes weeping black ink, a mouth stretched so wide it split the skull. He slammed the notebook shut, heart pounding. It was just some creep's art project, right? But the warmth of the cover lingered on his palms, and the image of that distorted Bart burned behind his eyes. Without thinking, he stuffed the notebook into his backpack and bolted from the library, ignoring Mrs. Phelps' sleepy mumble. That night, Bart lay in bed, the notebook hidden under his pillow. He told himself he'd throw it out tomorrow, but sleep came faster than he expected. The dream began softly, a gray void, weightless and cold. Then he felt it, his body stretching, bones cracking like dry twigs. His arms grew, spiraling outward, fingers splitting into thinner, longer tendrils. His chest prickled as eyes pushed through his skin, wet and blinking. He tried to scream, but his mouth stretched too, teeth dissolving into a gaping maw. In the dream, he saw Springfield below, tiny and fragile as his endless form loomed over it, eyes rolling to watch every corner of the town. Bart woke with a gasp, sweat soaking his sheets. His room was dark, the clock glowing 3:17 a.m. His heart raced, but something else felt off. He stumbled to the mirror, flicking on the light. His reflection looked wrong. His arms seemed a fraction longer, his fingers too thin. His eyes, usually sharp and mischievous, were slightly too wide, the pupils glinting unnaturally. He shook, his head blaming the nightmare, but the notebook's weight under his pillow felt like an anchor. The next few nights brought more dreams, each more vivid. His body grew in impossible ways, limbs threading through the air like veins, eyes blooming like sores. Each morning, Bart checked the mirror, dread knotting his gut. His hands were definitely longer now, the knuckles sharper. His eyes had drifted apart, just enough to notice. At breakfast, Marge asked if he was feeling okay, her voice tinged with worry. Bart shrugged, hiding his hands in his pockets. But the notebook stayed in his room, unopened yet inescapable, its presence a low hum in his mind. He couldn't bring himself to touch it again, but throwing it away felt like betraying something vital. Whatever was happening, it had already begun. Bart tried to act normal, but normal was slipping away. His hands, now unnaturally long, dangled past his knees, the fingers curling like wilted vines. At school, kids whispered as he passed, their eyes lingering on his too wide gaze. The notebook remained untouched under his pillow, but its presence gnawed at him, a splinter in his mind. By the fourth day of his suspension, Bart noticed something worse. His shadow stretched too far, quivering even when he stood still, as if it had a life of its own. That night he didn't sleep, he couldn't. The dreams had stopped being dreams. It began subtly. A neighbor, old man Flanders, woke screaming about a boy with endless arms coiling through his dreams. By morning, a single unblinking eye had sprouted on his left palm, its pupil darting wildly. At the Quickie Mart, Apu clutched his head, muttering, but visions of Bart's face, warped and eyeless, only to find his own fingers lengthening, joints popping like wet twigs. Springfield streets grew tense, the air thick with a sour, organic stench no one could place. Bart, holed up in his room, felt it too, a pulsing in his bones, a pressure behind his eyes. He caught his reflection in the window. His face was stretching, cheekbones sharp, eyes multiplying like sores along his jaw. Then it happened. Late at night, Bart's arms moved without his will. Slithering out his window like ropes of flesh, they crept down Evergreen Terrace, splitting and branching, threading through mailboxes, under doors, into sewers. By dawn, Springfield woke to a nightmare. Bart's limbs, now grey and veined, sprawled across the town like a fungal web. They pulsed, glistening as if breathing. Windows shattered under their weight. Walls buckled as they burrowed inside. Mrs. Krabappel screamed as a tendril coiled around her ankle, an eye blinking from its tip. Chief Wiggum fired his pistol at a writhing mass in the town square, but the bullet sank uselessly, the flesh knitting itself back together. Panic gripped Springfield. A mob gathered at the town hall, Moe brandishing a pitchfork, Barney clutching a broken bottle. They hacked at the tendrils, severing them, but each cut sprouted new growths faster and thicker. Eyes bloomed on the severed ends, rolling to stare at their attackers. Lisa, frantic, barricaded herself in the library, poring over ancient texts about cosmic horrors. She found a reference to an unbound scribe, a force that used mortals to unmake worlds. But before she could read more, a tendril smashed through the window, wrapping her in its grip. Her scream cut off as her eyes multiplied, mirroring. Bart's Homer, driven by a mix of fear and fatherly instinct, stormed the Simpson house with a fire axe. "Bart, what the hell's going on?" he bellowed, only to freeze. Bart stood in the living room, his body a grotesque parody, arms spiraling to the ceiling, eyes covering his torso, blinking asynchronously. "Dad, I can't stop it," Bart whispered, his voice echoing from too many mouths. Homer swung the axe, tears streaming, but the blade sank into Bart's flesh like mud. The mass surged, swallowing Homer whole, his muffled cries fading as eyes opened across his absorbed form. Marge, clutching Maggie, tried to flee, but the tendrils were everywhere, sliding through the walls, coiling around furniture. She fought, clawing at the flesh, but it was no use. Her own eyes began to shift, splitting into clusters as she was pulled into the mass, Maggie's wails silenced within. By nightfall, Springfield was a labyrinth of Bart's endless form. Houses collapsed under the weight of his limbs, streets vanished beneath a carpet of blinking eyes. Bart, or what was left of him, felt every inch of the town, every mind he invaded, every scream. He was no longer just Bart, he was Springfield, and Springfield was him, a single writhing entity with no end in sight. Bart was no longer bound by Springfield's limits, or any limits. His form, a grotesque tapestry of endless limbs and blinking eyes, had consumed the town, its streets and souls now part of his pulsating mass. The sky above Springfield churned, a grey vortex mirroring the chaos below, as if the universe itself recoiled. Bart's consciousness stretched thin, fragmented across countless eyes, each seeing a different shard of reality. He felt the weight of every absorbed life. Homer's fading defiance, Lisa's desperate curiosity, Marge's last scream, trapped within him, their voices a cacophony in his mind. Yet he was powerless to stop it. His body acted on its own, driven by something ancient, something hungry. The tendrils reached beyond Springfield, piercing the horizon. They slithered into neighboring towns, then cities, then continents, each new conquest adding to Bart's endless form. Forests withered under his touch. Oceans churned as his limbs plunged into their depths, eyes blooming like coral. Satellites captured glimpses of his spread, a grey, writhing stain swallowing the earth before they too were consumed, their metal husks dissolving into his flesh. Bart's awareness expanded with his body, a dizzying infinity of sights and sensations. He saw stars, galaxies, the cold void of space, all bending under his weight. He was no longer a boy, but a cosmic blight, a wound in existence. In the heart of this chaos, Bart's mind clung to a shred of self. He saw himself as he was, 10 years old, skateboarding, laughing, before the notebook. That cursed notebook. It sat untouched in the ruins of his bedroom, its pages now blank, as if mocking him. In a fleeting moment of clarity, Bart understood. The notebook was no mere object. It was a conduit, a trap laid by something older than time, something that fed on realities. Its drawings hadn't predicted his fate. They had chosen him. The unbound scribe, Lisa had called it before she was lost. Bart saw it now, in the void between stars. A formless presence, its will threading through his own, pushing him to consume, to grow, to unmake. Earth was gone, a speck in the vastness of Bart's being. He drifted in the cosmos, his limbs spanning, light years, eyes blinking across nebulae. Every absorbed life fueled his expansion, but it also deepened his torment. He was both victim and monster, aware of every life he'd erased, every world he'd devoured. The voices of Springfield, Homer, Marge, Lisa, even Milhouse whispered endlessly, their pain woven into his own. He tried to scream, but his mouths only multiplied, each one silent, gaping, useless. Then came the revelation, cold and sharp. This had happened before. The notebook was one of many, scattered across realities, each choosing a host to unravel existence. Bart saw them in his countless eyes, other worlds, other Barts, each a writhing mass of limbs and eyes, each a pawn of the scribe. Universes had fallen, their remnants pulsing within him, a legion of horrors bound to the same cycle. He was not the first nor the last. The scribe's hunger was eternal, and Bart was its vessel, condemned to spread until nothing remained. Now Bart's form reached for new realities. His tendrils pierced the fabric of existence, slipping into dimensions where other Springfields stood unaware. He saw himself in each one, a boy, a prankster, a spark, before the notebook found them. The cycle would repeat, endless, unstoppable. Bart's final thought as his consciousness frayed into the void was a plea for an end, for a way to break free. But the scribe's will surged, drowning him. His eyes turned outward, seeking the next world, the next victim. In the infinite, dark, Bart Simpson became the herald of oblivion, his endless form stretching toward eternities yet to fall.